Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be solving the LeetCode question, boats to save people. Alright, so in this question, we're going to be given a list called people, and in the list, the ith person has a weight of people I. So for example, if the I had a value of 1, that would mean that the first person inside of the people's list has a weight of whatever is over there. And each boat can carry a maximum of weight limit, okay? So limit is going to be an integer value, and that tells us the maximum amount of weight a boat can carry. So each boat carries at most 2 people at the same time, provided the sum of the weight of those people is at most limit. Return the minimum number of boats to carry every given person. It is guaranteed that each person can be carried by a boat. So this question as it is isn't too difficult, and the reason it's a little bit more easier is because of these two conditions. So the first part is that it is guaranteed that each person can be carried by a boat. So we know for a fact that everyone will at some point or can be carried by a boat. So this also actually introduces one more condition, that we're never going to have a value which is greater than our limit. Because if we have something greater than our limit, then in that case, that person would never be able to cross the river, right? So in this case, that is one condition. And that tells us that every person is going to get across some way or the other. So that makes it a little bit easier. And now the second condition that makes it easier is the fact that each boat carries at most 2 people at the same time. So the fact that at a single time we can only take 2 people or 1 person makes it a little bit easier to solve the question. But we really only need to be looking at 2 possibilities, which is either 2 people or 1 person. Now, our goal over here is to decrease or find the minimum amount of boats that is needed to carry a given person. So let's just look at a few examples, and it should be pretty simple how exactly we could approach this question. So in this case, we have 1 and 2. And what 1 and 2 means is that the first person has a weight of 1 kg, for example, and the second person has a weight of 2 kgs, okay? Now, in this case, when you add them up, add these 2 weights up, you get a value of 3. And the limit for the boat is 3. So the passenger's weight can be up to or equal to whatever our limit is. So in this case, we're going to put both of these 2 people in the same boat, and their weight is going to add up to 3. And since 3 is equal to the limit, we're good to go. So it only takes us 1 boat in order to get both of these people across. Perfect. So let's look at another example. So in this case, we have people and then 3, 2, 2, 1. So in this case, what happens is the limit is 3. So let's just kind of look at it and look at what possibilities we may have. So one thing we could do is we could take just the third person, because 3 over here is equal to our limit. So what that basically tells us is that we cannot add another person in this. So just to send this person over here with the weight of 3 kgs, we have to have 1 boat. So that is going to be 1 boat. Now the second option we could do is we could have the value 2. Now for 2 over here, one thing we could do is we could just send the person with 2, right? So that is something we can do, but we always want to try to decrease the number of people or the number of boats we need to send. So in other words, we want to always try to send 2 people at the same time. So keeping that in mind, with 2, let's see if there is any other value we can have. So in this case, the other value that we could have, let's look at the smallest value. So in this case, the smallest value is 1. Now, when you add these 2 people, so this person and this person, we get a weight of 2 plus 1, giving us a total weight of 3. And 3 over here is equal to the limit. So what we're going to do is in our second boat, we're going to add this person, and then they're going to go across the river. So that gives us with 2 boats. And finally, we just have 1 person left, and we're going to send him in his own single boat by himself. So the output over here is going to be 3. So as you can see, one thing that we're trying to do is we're always trying to pair 2 people together. Now, since we're trying to pair 2 people together, we can actually keep in mind a pretty simple idea. Now, the basic idea that we're going to have is that given a big value, with it, we're going to kind of pair a smaller value. So that is going to be kind of the basic idea. And if something is equal to our limit, so in that case, it's going to go by itself. And the other condition is, let's say we have some sort of value. So for example, 2, in 2, the only other value that can go with 2 is going to be the number 1, since the limit is 3, right? Someone with a weight of 1 kg, okay? And one more thing you do want to notice is that the weight has a minimum value of 1. So keeping that in mind, let's say we have 2, 2. So let's say we just have 2 and 2. In this case, we cannot send them together because it would exceed the weight limit. So in that case, we would send both of them by themselves. So we also need to see whatever the smallest value we have, does it when added up equal to, or is it equal to or less than whatever limit we have? Okay, so instead of just saying all of these conditions out loud, I'm just going to show you 2 examples to show you how it actually looks like. Okay, so over here we have 2 examples, and I'll start off with this one over here. So the first thing that we can do, and we kind of understand that it's pretty important for us to try to get 2 people at the boat at the same time, since we want the least amount of boats to be going at a single time. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to sort our array, and it is going to make it a lot easier for us to solve the question. So in this case, while we're sorting it, how exactly is it going to look like? So we're going to have 1 first, and then 2 again, and finally 3. Okay, and our limit is going to be 3. It's going to stay the same. So now that we have a sorted array, how exactly are we going to solve this? So for solving it, we're going to have a variable called result, and result over here is going to be start off with the value of 0. Now result refers to the number of boats needed, okay? So we're going to start off saying that we only need 0 boats, right? So we're going to start off with that value, and we're going to increment it each time. So now to actually get the combination of people that are going to ride, what we're going to do is we're going to have 2 pointers. So to do that over here, I'm going to have P1. Actually, I'll just represent them with letters. So let's just call this pointer A, and we're going to have pointer B. Now, pointer A is going to have the smallest value, while pointer B is going to have the greatest value. Now, the idea behind this is going to be pretty simple. So we're always going to try to pair 2 people at a time. And if that is not possible, then we're only going to take the biggest person and tell him to go. So now in this case, what is one possible pairing? So in this case, the pairing or the values we have are 1 and 3. Now when you add up 1 plus 3, we have 4. And well, pretty obviously, 4 is greater than 3. Now 4 over here is greater than our limit, and that creates a small problem. So that basically tells us that we cannot put them in the same boat. So keeping that in mind really simply, all that means is that this value over here is going to go in a boat by itself. So just to write it down, 3 is going to go in its own boat. And now, since it has its own boat, we want to increase the result by 1. So result is now going to be 1, okay? Perfect, so it's pretty simple. Now, also, since we already sent the 3rd person out, we don't need to account for him anymore. So in that case, we're going to move our pointer as well. Okay, so now the pointer is going to move to the left by 1. Perfect, so now we have the value 1 and 2. Now when you add these 2 people together, we have a weight of 3. And 3 is equal to our limit. And that's actually perfect, right? So in that case, that means we can put both of these people in the same boat. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to send the person with the weight of 1 and the person with the weight of 2 in the same boat. And when they go in the same boat, we need to increase the value of result. So result is now going to have a value of 1 plus 1, which is 2. Now, in this case, one thing that you do want to actually notice is the fact that we need to now move both of the pointers. So earlier, only the 3rd person went in the boat. But in this case, both the 1st person and the 2nd person went in the boat. So what we're going to do is we're going to move both the pointers. So we're going to move let me just do it one by one. So we're going to move A to the right by 1. So in this case, A is now going to be over here. And finally, we're going to move B to the left by 1. So B is now going to be over here. Now, at this point, what's going to happen is they're both at the same place. So obviously, that means that this is the only person left to go. So directly, we're going to send this person in his own little boat. So number 2 is going to go in his own boat. And simultaneously, our result is going to increase by 1, giving us a value of 3. And now we move both of the pointers. But in this case, all that's going to happen is A is going to be here and B is going to be over there. And when it happens something like this, so when A has a higher value than B in terms of index, then we're going to stop. So this over here gives us our final answer of 3, which is exactly what we were looking for. Now, real quickly, I'm going to do the same thing with this value over here just so you can better understand. Now, the limit over here is 5. So first step, we're going to sort it. So real quickly, 3, 3, 4, 5. That's how it looks when it's sorted. Now after this, we need to have the 2 pointers. So let's have A and B. Now the first thing we want to do is add them up. So 5 plus 3 is 8. Now 8 is greater than our limit. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to send 5 in its own boat. So in this case, now we need 1 boat, or actually I'll just use a tally mark. So we need 1 boat in this case. Now we're going to move B to the left by 1. Now in this case, we have a weight of 4. Okay, so that means we could accommodate another person. So keeping that in mind, the other person, the smallest weight we have is a weight of 3. So now when you do 4 plus 3, we get a value of 7. Now 7 is greater than 5. So again, we send 4 in his own boat. So now we need 2 boats to accommodate. Okay, now we move B to the left by 1, and same thing happens. Now we have 2 people. 3 plus 3 is 6, which is again greater than the limit. So 3 is going to go in its own boat, and we're going to move the pointer to the left. And finally, we just have one value left, which in this case is the value 3. And at this point, this 3 is going to go in its own boat as well. So that means we need 4 boats at this case. So for this value, so for this over here, everyone goes in their own boat and they're all going to have a value of 4. So that's going to be it for our solution. Okay, so this should be it for our solution, and I think it's not too hard to understand. And now all we're going to do is look at the code for the solution. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to sort the people list. So people.sort, and now we have a sorted list for people. Now after this, we want to actually initialize our 2 pointers. So I'll just call them the same thing that I called it in my video. So it's going to be A and B. And then we also need a result, and result is going to be the number of boats we need. Now A is going to start off at the 0th index, and B is going to start off at the very ending. Now to denote the very ending, to do that, it's pretty simple. We can find the length of people and subtract it by 1. And the reason we're subtracting it by 1 is length starts counting at 1, but we're indexing by 0. Okay, so that should be it. And finally, for the result, we're going to give it a value of 0 to start off with. Now we're going to go inside of a while condition, and the condition is pretty simple. We're going to keep going as long as A value, so whatever the A value is, in other words, the smaller value, right? So the leftmost value has to be less than or equal to the B value. And as long as that's true, we're going to keep going inside of this. So each time we enter this, we're going to be increasing our result by 1. So result plus equals to 1. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do over here is we're first going to check if we can actually accommodate for 2 people. And to do that, it's pretty simple. So we're going to go inside of people, then we're going to go to the A index, and we're going to add whatever weight is over there to whatever is at the B index. So now we have a total weight, and we need to check if this weight is less than or equal to whatever limit we have. Now, if this value over here is less than or equal to the limit that we have, that means that 2 people can go through. Now, since 2 people can go through, what's going to end up happening is the A value over here is going to increase by 1, and the B value is going to decrease by 1. But one thing you do want to consider in this case is that if this is not true, then that means only one person is going to go. And in simple words, that's going to be the bigger person. So whoever has a higher weight, that person is going to go in his own little boat. So to kind of make sure we can do that each time, what we're going to do is we're going to put that outside of the if condition. And the reason for that is because, so over here, each time, no matter what, B is going to decrease by 1. And the reason B is always going to be decreasing by 1 is because each time, whether there is 2 people or 1 person, the person at B is going to go no matter what. So keeping that in mind, we can remove this condition over here. Okay, so this is going to be it. And at the very ending, we need to increase the number of boats we have. So result plus equals 1. And at the very ending, all we need to do is return our result, and that should be it for our solution. Okay, so from now on, I'm also going to try to include a solution in Java. So I'm going to do the same thing real quickly. So the steps are going to be exactly the same. So the first thing is to do arrays.sort, and that is going to help us sort the people array. So now we have people sorted. Now what we're going to do is we're going to initialize our pointers. So we had A, which equals to 0. Then we had B, which equals to the length of people. So to do that, we're going to do people.length, and we're going to subtract that by 1. And then the other value we have is going to be our result, which is the number of boats, and that starts off at 0. Now the condition here is exactly the same. So while A is less than or equal to B, we're going to keep going inside of this while loop over here. And each time what we're going to be doing is we're going to check for the condition if the weight of the person at A and B is less than or equal to our limit. So to do that, we're going to do people A and add that with people B. And this value over here has to be less than or equal to our limit. Okay, so that's going to be our if condition. And if we end up going over here, we're going to increase the A value by 1. So A is going to increase by 1. And if this is not the case, so no matter what, the person at B is always going to be moving. So if we go over here, it just means that 2 people end up moving. But if we do not go in there, or even if we do, the person at B is going to go in the boat no matter what. So to account for that, b minus minus, meaning that we're going to decrease the index of b by 1. And finally, we also need to increase the boat that we actually have, so result plus plus. In other words, we need to increase the number of boats we have. Now finally, the only last thing that we have left to do is we need to return our result, and that's exactly what we're doing here. And if you submit this, this should also get accepted. So finally, thanks a lot for watching, guys, and do let me know if you have any questions.